Hey there, everybody in the FFBE Global Facebook group, and hello to everybody who sees this video on YouTube as well. Welcome to this week's episode of Ask an Old Mog, where we try and take a look at some questions in the FFBE Global Facebook group and try and answer them in a visual format. This week, I don't have a specific question that I wanted to try and address, but actually one of several different questions that I'm going to try and answer in a few different ways. Anytime that we have a bunch of things that we can all choose at the same time, we get a lot of questions about, like, should I pick this thing or should I pick that thing, or is this thing worth investing in, or, you know, who should I use to do X, Y, and Z with? And given the arrival of our Fragment Select tickets, I've been seeing a lot of questions about who people should pick for their fragments. And so I thought that I would talk about that. And I'm actually going to do two videos on something similar to this. So, like, this is the first one, and this one's going to be decidedly positive. And the other one is going to be somewhat, like, critical of the process. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in another video. I wanted to save this one to be just, like, positive. But I also thought it'd be nice to talk about some other things that we can pick and choose from in the game right now that might be useful to you. So that said, let's get into it. So like I said, we see lots of questions like the ones I'm going to pop up right here. Who should I use my Fragment Select tickets on? What vision card should I be choosing from the vision card step up? What unit should I choose from this, like, unit of choice ticket or unit select ticket? We've had these a lot from, like, Neovision's for like Neovision's tickets. And like I said, when I have a whole lot of these all at once, I like to kind of do like a current video on this and my opinions on it. But I do want to throw out there that this is just my opinion, you know. So while I think I'm pretty good at trying to play in a specific way, which is like basically free and like good at using my resources, this is just my opinion. So if your opinion is different from mine, you know, run with that and feel free to share that with me. We can definitely talk about it. But I'm going to share my opinions with you about, like, what we should do with these questions, okay? Basically breaks down into a couple different categories. We're going to start with the Fragment Select tickets, and in the same vein, we're also going to talk about, like, unit select tickets. But this really does boil down to, for me, the question of whether or not you're free to play. The reason being that if you're free to play, you are not pulling as much, and you might have to be, like, creative with how you put together you know, units, especially if you're focusing on Clash of Wills, less so if you're focusing on Dark Visions. And the reason for that has to do with Clash of Wills requiring 16 EX levels if you want to be rank 1. So you want to focus on units that are going to provide the benefits that you want. For if they're Clash of Wills units, you got to have high EX levels. If they're Dark Visions units, you know, you probably want to get them to at least EX2 to get their STMR and maybe their passive skills awakened. So there you go, you kind of pick and choose. So let's talk a little bit about, like, Clash of Wills first, because these are the ones that are my favorites. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the list here. So if you go to the coin and exchange shops, this is where you're going to see this. We're going to go all the way over to the end. Here we go. Ticket exchange. So as you can see, this is on Friday since the update. We have 2 of these tickets available for us. And each one for a non-premium unit gives you 1 ticket for 10 shards, 10 fragments, right? And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, because this is where a lot of units that I'm interested in are going to be, because they're the brand new units or the newish units. Notice the latest one in the list currently is Beach Blaster Olive, who is very, very strong at what she does. She does a 90% break, as well as, you know, just solid damage, can chain with other Extreme Nova chainers or just be a finisher. She's got a lot of potential, and I think very good, especially for Clash of Wills. But she's not the one that I would say definitely have all the time, because she does have some limitations. Anyway, she's on the list. But some other good ones to invest in that are on this list, if you're going to focus on Clash of Wills and want to get those high EX levels for these units, Sky remains a very strong damage dealer in Clash of Wills because of morale scaling. Kaito's incredibly flexible and can basically fit into any team. Same with Roberta. Roberta and Ignitos, they can provide tons of benefits for Clash of Wills, including killers and buffs and LB damage, which is also useful outside of Clash of Wills, modifier boosting skills, tag team chaining, so many things that Roberta can do. She's very, very valuable. Chizuru, of course, for both Clash of Wills and non-Clash of Wills. Esther, notice Esther has an asterisk next to her name. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Already talked about Olive. Fravia does not always do the best damage, but can do a lot of good support and breaks, and her ice imbues and ice field is very, very good. And Kresnik is like super OP in Clash of Wills. You know, does tons of good things for you for morale fill. And I'm also going to throw in here Olivera, because the upcoming Clash of Wills is weak to darkness, and Olivera is all about that, especially in Clash of Wills, as well as having some good buffs and stuff like that that can be useful. So like for Clash of Wills, if you're focusing on these, you want to use these fragments potentially to get these units to like EX2 or better, depending on how many copies you have laying around. They're going to be very, very valuable. You could also pick up units, fragments for Bulwark, theoretically Ling, theoretically Louise, depending on what you're trying to do. Yigni can also do morale scaling stuff. Not always the best. Maeve is on this list. So lots of things you could do for Clash of Wills type characters, but the ones up there that I've got listed are probably the most valuable, most flexible. Olivera is not totally flexible as a mage, but still powerful and probably good for the upcoming Clash of Wills. Okay, and then the other thing you want to think about is if you're more interested in like dark visions and trials, and I'm not going to go into each and every one of these, but like the various elemental breakers are becoming, you know, they're not like super good all the time, but they're becoming important as we get into like the way the 12 types trials are going, where you have to have very strong imperils. So like units like Vaughn, Emperor, Tulian, you know, the good imperil elemental breakers are an option to get to EX level 1, if for no other reason than getting their SLB available to you. And the same is true about elemental buffers. You know, having them at higher EX levels will make their super limit burst available at a faster rotation. So it might help with your like rotation of your skills, to have those breaks and buffs available to you more frequently. Outside of that, you really want to focus on like very strong damage dealers. So like units like Knights of Grandshelt, which is kind of a meme just because like nothing is weak to light anymore. But he is good at what he does. They do. You know, Balthier is also on this list, but if you don't have Fran, like Balthier kind of like becomes a, you know, a dud unit because Fran's no longer available. You know, lots of good options on this list, but you definitely start at the bottom if you're looking for like current stuff. So like Olive, Vaughn, Rus and Nilika are on here, Chizuru, Poppy, Dark Fina Warrior's Prayer is good, but also a premium. And notice, and this is where I wanted to bring up Esther's asterisk. Any premium units, you get a ticket for the cost of it costs twice as much, so it's 2 tickets for 10. So to get 10 fragments costs you 2 tickets. They're twice as expensive. It's harder to get their fragments if they're a premium unit. You will get more units overall, or more fragments overall, if you focus on non-premiums. But sometimes those vision cards are very, very good. Kind of have to weigh that option out. Okay. Another thing you want to think about as you're choosing who you want to invest in is getting a unit to EX2 will get you their STMR for free. And since you have potentially 300 fragments to choose with, you could theoretically get 3 free STMRs for any unit you already have at EX1. So like, let's say I have, you know, Fravia at EX1, no fragments on top of it, and I have Tulian at EX1, and I have Bulwark at EX1, and I want all their STMRs for some reason, I could use all my tickets to get all of them to EX2 and get their STMRs for free without having to spend a Moogle. Maybe not the best way to use your tickets, depending on how you play and what you're doing, or depending on what other resources you have. You know, if you just want their STMR, it's probably cheaper to grab a Moogle. But if you're just going to get them to EX2 anyway because you want to use them, this will do this for you without spending a Moogle. So that's an option. Okay, that's something to consider. On top of that, this is not current because we don't have a Neovision Select, but like you could do the same thing if we had a Neovision Select going on. You know, choosing units that are going to give you strong STMRs just by grabbing them. So like Rykard and Wyvern, for example, they give you a very strong jump STMR. again, Esther, Fravia, lots of good weapons. Beach Blaster Olive, really good weapons. If you could pick something like that, just grabbing a unit. Or, again, you can go back to Sky. You know, Sky is very, very good and very, very flexible. If you could pick a Sky and you didn't have one, I would say go ahead and do that. But you might get more mileage out of something like Kaito or Chizuru, depending on what you can choose at those times, okay? So that's talking about units. That's only part of what this video is about. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the vision card step up. Let me go ahead and show you where that is. If you go to the exchange shop, right, it's all the way at the bottom. Ticket exchange, vision card select, global original. And I've got all 6 of them written on the screen here. And I put them in order of the ones that if I was gonna spend the lapis to get the step up, and which one would I choose in order. The first one I would choose would be Dazzling Demoness, and the reason for that is it's ridiculously good for any units that want to have True Double Hand, Chain Cap up, if they're Brave Exvius units, and a bunch of MP. And so standing out on top of that right now is NVA Golbez. Dazzling Demoness takes NVA Golbez from, like, you know, 7-8 to 11. So very, very good. Very, very good for his MP scaling ability. Meteor +2. This is also very, very good for Medina, who operates in a very similar way, just not as good. And any future units who cast Meteor as well will love Dazzling Demoness. So if you're going to do this and you just had to pick one, I would say that. But let's say you already have Dazzling Demoness and you for some reason missed Leave Things to Me. That would be my second pick because of, again, the True Double Hand attack built in, the automatic Imperil, the preemptive Imperil for Great Swords, Fire, and Earth. It's just a very, very solid card. Okay, very, very good for attackers, especially if they're going to use Great Swords. Another good one is, you know, I like Bond with the Crimson Dragon a lot. It's very good for Roberta and Ignitos if you never had it. In Clash of Wills, she wants to wear Dazzling Demoness, but if she's going to be a jumper, Bond with the Crimson Dragon is good. If you don't have Rykard and Wyvern's card, which is better for jumpers. But this makes gearing her for jump very, very good. It also gives bonus stats for attack and magic. It's a solid card. Weaver of Wishes it has some features like Dazzling Demoness. It gives 200% True Double Hand magic. It also gives flat magic and spirit, which is good. It gives some resistances, which is good, and it gives chain speed up, not chain cap up. So it has some flexibility and some usefulness, but it's definitely towards the bottom. Warrior of the Azure Crystal is a dual wield card, so if you ever want to force a unit to do dual wielding, sometimes you want to, very rarely. Here it is. It is good at what it does. It's just not as good as Demoness and the other things. And then finally, Proof of Resolution and Resolve. And I put an asterisk next to this because if you have the Power Cut card from a couple Vision Worlds ago, this card is not as good. Or if even you have Fledgling Warrior and his Vision card, this is not as good. But if you don't have either of those and you really want a tank Vision card, Proof of Resolution and Resolve is okay at that. But at this point, we also have Jecht's Vision card, which is definitely better. So I really would not recommend picking that one. That's why I put an asterisk there. Okay, and speaking of vision cards, there's another vision card selection that you can always do. It's permanent, and that's the permanent vision card exchange. You get these vision card select tickets randomly, as like login rewards, but they also give you these anytime you awaken a premium unit to EX2. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you where that is. It's in permanent exchange, all the way at the bottom. Well, almost all the way at the bottom. Ticket exchange, permanent vision card select. And this is basically all the vision cards that are, you know, available anytime you summon a random Neovision unit or awaken a Neovision's unit to EX1 or 3. You can get a bunch of vision cards off of this. And there's a handful that are very, very useful, and there's a handful that are really, really bad. So I'm going to pop those up on the screen right there. Actually, they're already there. Oliveira's card, if you don't have Dazzling Demoness, is a good alternative for MP scaling units like Medina, Golbez, Cetra Descendant Aerith, if you want to do Holy. You know, it's good for just boosting your MP really, really high. Oliveira as well kind of likes this, but likes Dazzling Demoness better. Tulian's card is very good for building a provoke tank. It has evasion and provoke built in, very nice. Kaito has very good flat stats for attacking units, so like it's this one here, Be Like Water. Notice it gives 500 flat attack, 70% attack if you're wearing a katana. Very, very nice. The flat attack is only for FFBE units, but let's face it, those are the ones we're probably using anyway. And it's a good one. Laguna's card, and also Kiros and Ward's card, is the acting card. It's got a red dragon on it. Let me find it. Where is it? I went past it. Acting debut. Okay, so it gives 50% attack. That's kind of cool. It gives LB damage boost. Kind of cool. And then also gives 500 flat attack to Squall. So, you know, or any other Final Fantasy VIII unit. So it's good for Squall. Squall's a very solid NVA, and that gives a nice little boost to him. Frequently, I've built a Squall on a budget, and I've thrown this card on him saying, you can always grab this card from the Vision Card Select shop. And like, notice I have used some of them, but I have 5 of these laying around in my inventory, so I could have grabbed this anytime I wanted from this shop for free without having a Laguna or a Kiros and Ward. Fraevia's card has really good hybrid stats on it. That's a Master in Disguise. It's right here. So it's got attack and magic 30%, even more 30%, and then flat stats to everything. So it's really good, just kind of like general stats for FFBE units. And then also Kresnik's card is called, where is it? I think it's called Cure and Curse. No, Remedy to Ruin. Ruin to Remedy. Gives you 50%, it gives all units 50% True Double Hand Spirit, and 50% more if they're an FFBE unit. Very good for Spirit staff users, is that Vision card. And so there you go. So lots of things to pick and choose from. These are definitely, like I said, though, very opinion based. So if you have a different opinion of what you should be choosing, and a good reason for why that is, you know, I'm happy to hear about it. What would you say you should choose? You know, what do you think is a better choice? Feel free to let me know in the comments if you've got a different opinion than mine. You know, I'm happy to share that, and we can discuss it, because I love a good discussion. And speaking of, like I said, there's gonna be kind of a part 2 to this that I'm not gonna share in the Facebook group, because I want to just I want to keep this one positive. And that'll be coming out, you know, not too much later than this one. I gotta spend some time recording it and then planning exactly what I want to say. But it's gonna be specifically about the Vision Card Select, or not the Vision Card, the Fragment Select tickets that we're getting right now, and just some opinions that I have about that whole situation. So hopefully you're interested in that, and you'll come around and check that one out too. But for now, that's what I've got. So go out there and make some choices about your fragments, maybe, and maybe make some choices about your Vision cards. And we'll see you in the next video. So if you've got a question you want addressed in that video, let me know in the comments or in Facebook. If you ask a question, I'm going to do my best to try and answer ones that seem interesting and relevant. Yeah, or drop a comment on YouTube as well. I'm happy to take a look there. It's always good to talk with my community, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.